Hello there, everybody, and here is my part 2 of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Season 3 from the 80s show. So, since there's so many episodes, as I've said in the last video, we're going to be reviewing a few a week, just like, I think 12 episodes or 13 episodes. But, basically it's kind of like reviewing all the discs on this show's DVD. But, let's start with the sword. I think it's called the Ninja Sword of Nowhere. So this is where the Turtles are trying to go find Splinter a gift for his anniversary of being a sensei, I'm pretty sure. But instead, they find a magic sword that can open a wormhole to another world. And once Shredder learns about this sword, he immediately wants to go after the Turtles because of it. And one thing I want to note about this episode is the Turtles are randomly not wearing their masks in this episode. Like, when they go into the store, they're all not wearing their ninja masks. I wonder, did the animators just not want them to wear masks? While wearing their trench coats, I guess? And then they put on their mask once they take off those trench coats to take down Shredder. But once Shredder does get a hold of this sword, he is able to find a way to get to Splinter, and the two have their little battle. And it leaves Splinter trapped in this wormhole. He's basically in this parallel world where there's not really anything at all. Just a giant space of like random winds of pink sparkles or something. I assume that's like other portals. And Shredder actually finds his way out. And he's going to go after the Turtles, of course. But this all leads to it revealing that it's an alien that's from some other world that's controlling this planet, and they're looking for their sword. And when they do get the sword, the Turtles only have a few minutes left to save Splinter. And Splinter actually jumps on board the turtle blimp, and I think April's news van ends up getting lifted up. I'm jumping a bit, but it literally has April's news van get lifted all the way up to the portal, and then April, of course, loses it, but Splinter comes back, of course, and the sword is finally gone from Shredder's hands when the alien shows up. So this episode's definitely an interesting one for sure. I just like the idea of that a sword that can literally open other dimensions, and we see the battle between Splinter and Shredder again. That's always refreshing to see, since they have a wild rivalry, and it's more shown in this episode for sure. But yeah, the next episode is 2000 Leagues Under the City. So this is where Krang and Shredder are planning to flood all of New York, and we see Donnie and Mikey use like this turtle boat thing. I forget what it's called, but that was definitely meant to sell toys. I don't know if they had that back in the day. If you had something like this as a toy, you could comment it below. I bet all of us had like the Shell Razor. Wait, no, the Turtle Van, whatever you want to call it, the Shell Razor, the Turtle Van. But the turtle boat is clearly meant to sell toys, and it even has like those little plunger things. But the main thing that goes on throughout this episode, I don't remember too much, but this is where the Turtles try to stop Krang and Shredder from flooding the city, and I think this takes place during Burn Thompson's birthday, and I'm pretty sure it says he's 50, so it's kind of wild that he's 50 in the 80s, and that means he was probably born in the 30s, and he's probably old by today's standards. But the Turtles have to find a way to stop Shredder from flooding the city and save April, of course. And there's just a bunch of like underwater themes to this episode where the Turtles have to like make their way around the water, and we get a bunch of Jaws references, of course, since Jaws came out years after this episode came. Well, maybe like a decade, I'm gonna guess, since Jaws is it's like at its 50th anniversary. But this episode's definitely a lot of fun. It kind of reminded me of the Sky Turtles episode where the Turtles have to fight in the sky when Shredder and Krang try to lift the city up in the air. But yeah, that's an interesting one. So the next episode I remember a lot more fondly. I think Take Me to Your Leader, I think it's called. This is where Leonardo has a dream, a bad one, where he and the Turtles are going up against Shredder, and it of course goes wrong. Mikey ends up falling into a trap door of a pizza. I'm pretty sure Raph gets turned into a balloon, I recall, and Donnie gets knocked out, of course, but this causes Leo to be all by himself, and because of this dream, he starts to have doubts about being the leader of the team. So he decides that he must not be a leader anymore, and he decides to flee the team. And this is where it causes Raph, Donnie, and Mikey to basically find a way to be the leader. And they all take turns, and all three of them fail until Leo is able to show up after Shredder and Krang are plotting something evil, of course. This is where they're gonna turn the whole world snowy, and we get a more Arctic theme with this episode. I remember a few episodes ago they were trying to use nitrogen, I'm pretty sure, that episode, the Burns Blue one. But this episode's probably the really only episode of characterization with Leonardo, since this show is pretty straightforward with its cartoonish themes. It just shows that Leo learns that to not let self-doubts get in the way of the mission. And that's an okay lesson for sure. But not too much goes on until Leo shows up. Well, nah, I scratched that, but one other thing about this episode that's kind of funny is Krang uses a device that claimed that he's the most powerful being, and he's able to use this force field as a shield, and it only comes in his size, and then when Shredder tries to use it, he of course shrinks down, and he just squats, and I thought that was funny. But the Turtles are able to regroup, and they all failed trying to be the leader until Leo shows up, and the day is saved, of course. And Splinter even asks each of the Turtles what they all learn, and of course Leo expresses how he's not going to let doubts get in his way, like I said earlier. But this episode is definitely a good one for sure. But the next episode is the Four Musketeers. So this is where, during a battle with Shredder, Leo gets hit by some ray, and it causes him to think he's Dark Tantan. I'm sorry if I got the name wrong, from the Three Musketeers, but this time it's the Four Musketurtles. I'm pretty sure they only made this episode just so they can dress the Turtles as the Musketeers and see what they look like as those kinds of characters. But hearing Leo's voice and Cam Clark do that accent, it was funny. But it's just funny that he was thinking he was some swords. I mean, he is a swordsman, but he was thinking he's a musketeer. But all four Turtles end up having to save Irma from Shredder after he goes to a public assembly that is going on with April, of course, recording everything, and it leads to the Turtles having to find their way to take down Shredder, even though Leo is not remembering that he's Leonardo, and he starts to randomly crack it all in, I don't know why I said it like that, but he starts to think that he is Leonardo, but then when he finally gets zapped again, he finally gets his memories back, and he's able to just take off that outfit during the battle, and he's back to being the Ninja Turtle. So, and they stop Shredder, of course, per usual, and he gets away. But this episode is definitely just a parody of the Three Musketeers, and that's what really works about this episode. They honestly could have made action figures of this, what the Turtles look like as musketeers, and they all have swords and say the all for one and one for all, the cliche catchphrase from that series of Musketeers, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah. The next episode, Turtles everywhere. So this is where Shredder finds a device that kidnaps every turtle in New York. And he ends up kidnapping April, and when Donnie tries to save these turtles, he ends up getting trapped in a telephone booth, and he is trapped with all the other turtles. But it leads to the turtles having to go save April and Donnie. But the main thing that goes on in this episode is Shredder manages to kidnap a mother turtle who is about to give birth to a bunch of baby turtles. And it's just like, and Shredder, of course, just doesn't care because, he's Shredder. And he uses, some turtle device that will kidnap all these turtles. And you actually feel really bad for these turtles. Like, they're just innocent creatures, just living their lives. And, of course, they're just randomly getting kidnapped by these gigantic hands. But, of course, Leo, Mikey, and Raph are able to find Donnie when they're able to climb onto the device Shredder has kidnapped all of them on. But they do save the mother, of course, and they actually let her right to rest on the beach, and of course April reports it. But this episode is definitely interesting because it kind of raises awareness of the issues animals face. I guess you can say it's turtle rights, since animals do have rights, and they're able to have the freedom they deserve, and the turtles are able to let the mother lay her eggs and able to give birth to those baby turtles. And it just reminds me of the origin of the turtles, of what led them to be picked up by that boy and they get dropped into the sewer, and then they get mutated like in the Mirage comics. But in this show they meet Splinter, and then they get mutated. But imagine if they created an army of turtles. That would have been fun for sure. It even causes Mikey to cry, realizing that it reminds him of Mom. I always wondered, imagine if we did get the Teenage Mutant Turtles parents, even though they don't really have parents other than Splinter, who is their father figure. But this episode is definitely a lot of fun for sure. The next episode is probably the best one of this season, Cowabunga Shredhead. So this is where Shredder tries to use a device that will cause him to create a hologram of Mikey, and he's trying to use this disc to steal something, of course. But when Bebop accidentally puts in the wrong disc, he puts it on backwards, and it zaps Shredder, of course, and it causes him to think he's Michelangelo. But during all this, Mikey ended up eating all the pizza in the sewer lair, and it causes the turtles to get mad at him, of course, and it causes Splinter to do some kind of strange ninja method where it's called Kung Pao. This is where it mind controls anybody, and he basically controls Mikey to not want pizza anymore. And now he says, "I crave pizza no more." I feel like that's just a quote. But then Shredder, of course, shows up in the sewer thinking he's Mikey, and he starts acting like him. It's just funny seeing James Avery just do the Mikey voice, just having all fun with it. But Splinter ends up finding a way to control Shredder back into his evil self. But then there's a little twist. Every time they say Michelangelo, he goes back to thinking he's Mikey. But it's a nice way of some sort of hypnosis. I don't know what to call it. It's a little confusing, but the turtles, of course, try to find April to find out what the disc means, and they do sneak into Channel 6, and they use the disc, and they find out it's a hologram of Mikey. But during all this, Mikey is just out looking for something to do. He randomly goes to a pizza shop, and he's like, "Oh, I crave pizza, I'll just have a soda." But then, of course, he gets kidnapped I don't think he does get kidnapped, but I'm thinking of the other episodes. But this is where Leo and Raph decide to go investigate the pizza shop with Shredder, and of course they accidentally say, it's Shredder who accidentally says Shredder, and he causes him to go back to his evil self, and he decides to put Leo and Raph in pizza dough and fry them. He almost fries them until they're able to yell Shredder, causing him to go back to his evil self. His Mikey self. And it's honestly dark to see them get thrown into the pizza fryer. But of course, they decide to find a way to get Shredder out of the trance, back into Shredder mode, and so they can get the disc. And they basically do find a way to get the disc, and eventually Shredder does get away. And of course, he ends up using the hologram of Mikey, and we later see multiple Mikeys, and it all leads to a great finale where Mikey ends up teaming up with the Turtles and helping them out, and they of course find a way to get probably the best moment in this episode is where Mikey just yells Michelangelo and then causes Shredder to go back in Mikey mode, and he just pulls out a blaster, says Cowabunga, and destroys the machinery that he's using, and it zaps Shredder, and he's back to his Shredder self. But the episode ends with April and the Turtles having a pizza party, and Splinter uses his method back to have Mikey crave pizza once again, and even ends with Mikey eating pizza, of course. But Cowabunga Shredhead was definitely an interesting episode. Just a weird mind control episode, definitely on the top 10 list of episodes for this show. But the next episode is the Turtle Snatchers. This is where Donnie and Rocksteady get kidnapped by some random alien, but this plot kind of just goes out of nowhere. This is where Donnie teams up with Irma to go out shopping, but he gets snatched by the alien, and then while Shredder, Bebop, and Rocksteady... I'm pretty sure it's Bebop and Rocksteady go on patrol to find some device for Shredder. Rocksteady gets grabbed by the alien, causing Bebop to explain what happened, and then Irma tries to explain what happened to Donnie, and it leads to them in some underground world. But it's actually revealed to be a hologram world, where they're running around this whole place, and eventually they do meet the aliens, and it causes Donnie to force the team up with Rocksteady. But of course, once Shredder learns about this, he is brought on board. He finds a way to get on board with the ship, and this is where Rocksteady ends up betraying Donnie. And I'm pretty sure Splinter eventually finds a way to go into the rocket. I'm jumping a bit, but this episode was definitely an interesting one. But the aliens themselves were trying to find some toy, and they actually do find it, I'm pretty sure, and it causes them all to get sent back home, and they defeat Shredder, sending him back to his world. But I actually liked this episode because they were able to show the randomness of the alien spaceship, and I like how they had to explore the place of the ship, and it made Donnie and Rocksteady more confused. It was even weird seeing Donnie and Rocksteady together. That's just such a random duo to team up. But this episode is definitely a fun one for sure. I don't know if I went as much depth as Cowabunga Shredhead, but this episode's good. This next episode, I forget what it's called. This is called Camera Bugged. So Camera Bugged is probably the more sillier episodes. This is where, get this, another alien has arrived on Earth. But this time, he has a special camera that is able to suck people into the camera, and once Shredder sees this camera, he wants to steal it so he can use it on the Turtles, of course. But it becomes a big slippery slope to find this camera, and eventually when the Turtles find Shredder at Channel 6, when he tries to use it there, and I think during a battle, Shredder ends up grabbing the wrong camera. He ends up grabbing April's camera when April tries to record the fight, and it causes Shredder to use this camera. And I'm so sorry, I'm just mixing my words, but April ends up using the camera to accidentally uses it on the turtles, and they get sent into the camera. And because the alien ends up using the camera on a bunch of things, he ended up using it on Bebop and Rocksteady, the mailman, a truck, a bunch of random buildings as they start to disappear. But once April used the camera, it sucks in the turtles and Shredder, like I said. And they're sent to this other world where everything is the camera. And they think that they're trapped in this world until they find out that they can just rip apart random pictures and just jump in various worlds. And they actually do meet the bug dude, the alien, and they end up telling him that they can't have him using the camera because it's too dangerous. But he's like, oh, it's my job. But they tell him no. And eventually they find a way to get back to the real world, and they take down Shredder, and the alien, of course, goes back to his planet, or I assume. But this episode was definitely an interesting one. I just love how creative it was, just seeing the turtles have to go through various sort of dimensions in this camera. And the funniest scene was where Vernon tries to show the footage April shot of the turtles, but instead they just randomly show Bebop and Rocksteady in the camera, asking for them to get out. And that scene was probably priceless. But yeah, this episode is definitely a lot of fun. The next episode is Green with Jealousy. So this is where Krang makes like a love potion, and he's going to give it to the turtles. He puts it in their. He has Shredder go to the pizza shop they're going to, and he ends up using it on their pizza, causing I think like they pick up the pizza, and Donnie doesn't have one because he's driving, but Leo, Mikey, and Raph end up eating it. And apparently this potion, the first person they see, they fall in love with. And the turtles end up falling in love with Irma. And they basically become her secret admirer. They send her a puppy, which looks adorable. They send her hearts, love notes, and it just causes Irma to like be super excited because, oh, she has a secret admirer. But of course, this is all meant to be a distraction. But once Donnie figures this out, he ends up making like an anti-love potion on a pizza. And we even see the turtles put on like sailor suits, which are meant to rile up Irma. And it all takes place at some dock, and we see like a bunch of sailors. They end up running away because of Shredder, of course. But when Donnie does give them the potion, the anti-love potion, he ends up tricking them into eating it when they start to fight over Irma. I thought that scene was hilarious, where they're fighting over Irma, and they're only convinced to eat pizza unless it was made by Irma, and that's what Donnie tells them. And then, of course, they eat the pizza, and they're able to find their cure. And I'm pretty sure even Rocksteady gets hit by this love potion, and he falls in love trying to chase April in this, and it's funny. But when they do stop Shredder, of course, Irma shows up in a wedding dress, thinking she has a secret admirer, but the turtles end up revealing that it was them all along. And of course, it causes Irma to run away, and that scene was funny. But Agreeing with Jealousy was definitely an interesting episode for sure. I've always been obsessed with the potion concept. Since a certain YouTuber likes to use potions in his old videos, you know what I'm talking about, if you know the lore of this channel. But anyway, that was off topic. But the next episode is Return of the Fly. So this is where we see the return of Baxter Fly, who's for some reason a ghost in this episode. He ends up kidnapping April when turtles try to roam around the sewers. But Baxter's he wants revenge against Shredder, of course, even though he should just go after Shredder since he's the one that caused Baxter's life to go, like, go down the drain. He caused them to become a fly when Krang threw him into the thing, and now Baxter's like just a fly. But he ends up, I'm pretty sure, I don't remember too much what happens in this episode, but like he ends up finding a computer, and this becomes a plot point later in the other Baxter plots, where he uses this computer to like be his buddy, and he guides him through the episode. But the whole episode mainly just takes place underground, I'm pretty sure, as it says in the episode's title, where Shredder, of course, wants to do bad things, of course. But I don't know. I don't remember too much what goes on in this episode. I don't know why. I'm just having a brain fart. But yeah, it was cool to see Baxter Fly return again. And there's like so many episodes of Baxter Fly. Like each season has him return. And we even get to see Baxter's brother in season 4 of this show. I'll get more into that when I review season 4. But yeah, this episode was fine. So anyway, the next episode I'm excited to talk about. It is the Outlaw Casey Jones. So this is our first time seeing Casey Jones in this show. And I gotta say, he actually looks awesome. But he doesn't take his hockey mask off. I forget who he's played by in this show. It may have been Pat Freely. I'd have to look. But Casey is like going around town destroying criminals, just tearing them apart. And it's meant to be he's meant to be like an outraged version of the Turtles. Like he sees random criminals, it just beats the crap out of them, and they all think he's gone crazy. But when the Turtles decide to go out of the sewer, Casey finds them, and he thinks they're criminals, of course, because of the way they're dressed, and they even wear like the glasses with the mustache and the fake nose. I thought that was funny. But Casey ends up finding out they're turtles, and he thinks they're aliens, of course. But when they do meet up with Casey again, they end up revealing that they're the good guys, of course. But it takes a while for Casey to be convinced that they're the good guys. But this is where Shredder comes in with Krang. They're going to use some like gigantic device, some like giant foot walker, I'm pretty sure. They're going to use it against the city, and Krang is mainly controlling it, and of course the Turtles are going to need a help with Casey, and he ends up helping the Turtles take out Krang in this episode. It's nice to see Krang finally doing something else in this episode, for sure, but we get more of that good Casey Jones action. But he, of course, disappears into the night at the end of the episode, where the Turtles agree that he's crazy, but a good ally. But this is nice to see Casey Jones. It would have been nicer if he was a cast regular, since he is a major player in the Mirage and the main continuity of Ninja Turtles. But he didn't make too many appearances in this show, only a few random appearances. But his action figure looks awesome. I think it's meant to more look like the Mirage version, which I thought was a nice homage, since that's a more probably even a more crazier version. That's probably what they were trying to come up with when coming up with his characterization. But it's even wilder that we don't even see Casey Jones without his mask in this. I always wondered what he looked like without it, but they apparently were going to originally, for his toy, that they were going to make him where you can take the mask off, but I guess they decided to just have it be a part of him. He even wears it the next time we see him, which I'll get into next week. But the Outlaw Casey Jones is definitely a highlight episode for sure, highlighting when Casey Jones first appeared in this show. It definitely pulls off in this show. So the last episode I'm reviewing for this week is Mutagen Monster. So this is where Shredder ends up using his mutagen into the sewer line that creates like a giant bowl. And this bull looks definitely dangerous for sure. He, of course, roams in rampage all over New York. And it mainly takes place in like some factory area where the turtles end up having to fight this thing, and they have no clue how to defeat him because of how gigantic he is. And of course, they have to save Vernon, who's trying to get the big scoop on the story, and April's trying to get it, of course. But the turtles end up, I think they stopped the mutagen monster, and they probably made this episode just to show like a gigantic monster. Like the turtles go up against some crazy mutant. And so, yeah, this episode's definitely fine for sure. But sorry if that wasn't too much in depth, since it's hard to remember every one of these episodes since there's so many episodes. But that's my part 2 of my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles review. These episodes were definitely a lot of fun, just a lot of creative, crazy, wacky cheesiness that works with this show. Shredder trying to do something crazy. We see a lot more newer characters, a few of them, and like it just shows why this show really works. Even though it did come out in a different time, it just shows that this show is a lot of fun and there's a lot of heart to it. Even if like the show has a bunch of deadlines, they have to work hard on the animation. The voice cast is amazing still. It's interesting that they're able to do various funny voices with their characters. But I can't wait for the next week's review. I'm going to be talking about probably my favorite episodes of this show. So definitely part 2 is really good. But can't wait to talk about part 3 of this show for season 3. So anyway, thanks for watching, and Turtle Power.